Hey guys, I just wanted to continue on video about the functions and depression. So I never finished that. That's what I'm gonna do right now. So what I wanted to cover, I only covered mostly INFJs last time when I'm talking about the functions and depression. I was only referred to how it worked with INFJs mostly. So I just want to go over how I think it would work with other types. Now this is just a theory that I have. I still think, the clinical definition of depression is, correct, but I also just have this theory that different types react to depression in different ways, and I have a theory. My theory is based on how the different types react to depression. So I went over INFJs. I went over their functions. I said to review. I said the bottom functions kind of mute out, get muddled, and get cut off. So you're only relying on your top function, and when you're in a depressive state, you're trying to conserve energy, which is kind of what a depressive state is. You cut off your other functions and you rely mostly on your low energy, your top functions. So I said INFJ, they're going to be in their head more. Well, everyone knows INFJs are in their head, but they're going to be self-absorbed in their head. Their FE, their TI is going to be picking up. Their SE is not going to pick up details. Their TI is not going to order, it's going to be very quiet, not going to order the facts correctly. FE is just going to share the negative and still not be very strong, but it will be somewhat strong. An INFJ will still be more considerate of people when depressed. So my theory would be that INFJs are probably more prone to anxiety during depression because their FE is still there. So INFJs, ENFJs probably more prone to anxiety because of their FE taking an unhealthy route. And of course their NI, they're probably just going to be laying in bed thinking of, the big picture, or reading fantasy books, or reading whatever books they like to read, and just being absorbed in ideas and not making an effort to really to make positive thoughts. I already talked about INFJs, so I'm going to move on. Let's say INTP. How would that differ from an INFJ? Well, an INTP, I would theorize, is going to be more cynical. Now, I say this because if I go by my theory, then INTPs, their last two functions are going to be mostly cut off. They're not going to be having good SI inner facts, so their TI, which they're mostly going to use, is not going to be correct most of the time. And since their FE is going to be almost completely cut off, they're going to seem very harsh. And also, their NE is going to be about, I would say, about half strength. I would say that's kind of how it works, give or take. But their NE is going to not pick up all of the ideas, so they're mostly going to run off of TI. And TI is a judging inner function. So what that's going to do is they're going to be looking very cynical and saying, oh, you're wrong, and just picking apart what someone says in a very cold way, not a proper way, but and probably not a logical way, but they're going to be judging very quickly because they don't have their sensing functions to muddle, to balance their judgment function. So their TI is going to be judging things, picking them apart very harshly. So they're going to seem very cynical. Now, how would that work for an extrovert? Well, as I said, like an ENFJ is kind of just the reverse of an INFJ. An ENFJ might be even more anxious. But extroverts, are still going to be more extroverted even when they're depressed. They still probably seem like an introvert, and a lot of extroverts I see think they're introverts because they're depressed. But I would say it's just the INFJ. It's just more focused on the people and the anxiety, and less focusing on the bad ideas and more of the anxiety of what are people thinking. Now, I want to talk about the INTJ. And the INTJ, I would think, from what I've observed and what I think about the functions, since INTJs have extroverted thinking, I know extroverted thinking is more, let's talk about the whole INTJ. Okay, their last function, SE, that's going to get cut off anyways. That's not going to matter much. Now, they have FI, they don't have FE. So instead of having anxiety as much about people, they could have anxiety about other things like driving or danger that their NI makes up, but it's not going to be about people generally. And so people with FI depressed, especially even if it's a lower function, is gonna it's going to emphasize that lack of feeling more. So INTJs are going to be, when depressed, care even less about other people's feelings, and their TE is going to want to be more doing things. TE likes to do things. It's an extroverted function. It likes to do things that are, group logic, and it likes to make plans. So INTJs, without their feeling of what other people are thinking, and with their TE, they're going to be more prone, in my theory, to say like cutting themselves, because they're not going to care as much about what other people are seeing, and they're going to want to make a plan to do something about it. They're not going to be as melodramatic and feely as, say, the INFJ or ENFJ. They're going to be more self-absorbed and more willing to hurt themselves. Now, I'm not saying that INFJs or ENFJs can't do that, but what I'm saying is that I probably, in regards to my theory, INTJs are more likely, and more likely you'd have to be over, you'd have to be a much greater statistical value than INFJs or ENFJs. So I would think INTJs and possibly ENTJs are more prone to doing that. Now, it also depends on how they were raised, their environment factors. I say they're more susceptible. Now let's talk about the extroverted sensors, the top extrovert sensors, ESFP and ENTP. Now, the ESFP especially, their feeling is stronger, but is introverted, so they're going to be prone to acting out, and FI is a judgment function. So it's going to judge much in the way as TI does, as the cynical INTP, except it's going to be more focused on not picking apart an idea or logic, but associated with a moral value or feeling. So the ESFP is probably going to be, especially any ES, is probably going to be more prone to acting out, to to possibly aggressive behavior, irresponsible behavior, drinking, just very elaborate excessiveness, less being in the bed and more doing something. The ESTP with the TI, it's going to be more, like I was saying, more cynical. The ESTP, they may have a little more, they do have FE, but mostly I feel like that's going to be not very relevant. It's not going to show itself much. And they might not, it's going to be similar to the INTP, because they all have the same functions, just differently reversed. So I feel like the ESTP and INTP will be pretty much the same, but at the same time, wait, what am I saying? Okay, forget that, because the INTP doesn't have SE. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyways, the ESTP, it's going to be like the ESFP. It's going to be behaving badly, going out to maybe parties or going out into whatever ESTPs do, going out and engaging while carrying their depression. So they're going to be more prone to action, more prone to misbehaving. And I'm trying to think how I think their 2I would work. I didn't really think about that too much. It's something I'll have to work on. But let's see. Well, the INFP, that's going with the dominant FI. It's going to be very similar to how an INTP functions, except you won't get an INTP, except the difference will be the INFP is going to be judging based on moral and what most would call feeling-based opinions. And they're going to be saying, oh, you're a horrible person. They probably won't care what other people are feeling. They'll care about what they feel is bad and wrong, and they'll look about it in a negative light. Now, I don't know too much about introverted sensors, like the ISFJ, so I can't tell you how much that will work, because I have not observed many ISFJs. And what's the other one? ISTJs. I have not talked to many of those. I have not observed many of those. I'm not really sure how SI functions out in the real world. I haven't really observed that. So I can't yet give you a good description on ISTJ or ISFJ. But if you follow the logic I've been going through so far, and you know what SI is like, you're probably able to deduce what they would be like. You just cut off the last function, muddle the second two, and make them rely on their first function without the support of the balance of the other functions, which turns it into negativity and promotes an illogicalness to it. You could do that with all the functions, with all the types, and that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. So, thanks for watching. Take care, guys.